The Biden administration is fighting back against a judicial hold placed on OSHA's workplace vaccine mandate. In papers filed late Monday night, the White House implored a Cincinnati-based federal appeals court to lift another court's order blocking the rule, writing, quote, "Delaying this standard would endanger many thousands of people and would likely cost many lives per day."
Meanwhile, yesterday, at least 600 Google employees signed a petition stating their opposition to the company's expanding mandates. All employees must upload their vaccination status by December 3rd, whether they work from home or not. And all who work directly or indirectly with government contracts must be vaccinated, whether or not they work remotely. The letter, which CNBC calls a manifesto, asks Google to rescind its current mandate and draft a new one that is, quote, "inclusive of all Googlers." Here to weigh in is Team Rising. Michael Starr Hopkins is a Democratic strategist and president of Northern Star Strategies. Marissa Martinez is a Republican strategist and partner at Strategic Rush. Welcome to you both.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So, Marissa, do you think this mandate is going to hold up? Obviously, the court is suspicious of it. This is something that, you know, President Biden just declared and says he can do under OSHA's authority without any Congress voting on it, without any regulatory agency thinking it through and soliciting feedback. Nope, we can just snap our fingers and do it. And they're saying it's, you know, we have to have this. This is the only way we can beat the pandemic. Do you think this argument is going to hold up?
I do not think this argument is going to hold up. I think we're definitely going to see this make its way to the Supreme Court eventually. You know, the legal tussle over vaccine mandates for larger private employers is just simply going to be one of several challenges that the Biden administration faces when it comes to vaccination rules. You know, I'd like to note that courts so far have not yet halted to two other mandates, one for healthcare workers and one for federal government contractors as well. So I think it's kind of clear that we're going to see quite a bit of pushback, and the Biden administration is going to continue to have a rocky battle here.
And Michael, it's a little wild that Google wants to enforce a mandate on people even if they don't come into the office. Isn't that giving away the game a little bit? Because the claim that OSHA is making, which I feel like has some merit to it, saying that you want a safe workplace, and if you're forcing somebody to come to work, you can't, you know, morally, ethically, you know, force them to come to work, you know, with people who are unvaccinated. Okay, I think that's a meritorious argument that you can debate back and forth. But if the person's not even coming to the office, where do workplace settings, where do workplace rules come in?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lack of nuance in some of the application of this. I mean, but I think what the administration's real goal is, look, there's a worry heading into winter that if people are going to be inside together, that we're going to end up having another variant, a variant that doesn't fall in line with the vaccinations policies that we have so far, and then we have a new problem. I think that the administration has been a little haphazard in the way that they've communicated that to the American public, and I think the American public's frustrated with, you know, not just COVID, but the uncertainty in the way that we've dealt with it. And so that's how we come to this quagmire of, you know, people being upset about mandates, even though most Americans are now leaning towards getting vaccinated.
So I'm reading from the court filing from the Biden administration. OSHA has continuously monitored the pandemic and previously hoped for, quote, widespread voluntary compliance with safety guidelines to protect against the workplace threat. In recent months, the risk posed by COVID-19 has changed meaningfully, however, and non-regulatory options have proven to be vastly inadequate. So they're kind of saying we
didn't want to have to do this.
We wanted you to do what we wanted you to do without us telling you absolutely have to.
Which I think is true.
Now we're saying you absolutely have to. But I don't know. Non-regulatory options have proven to be vastly inadequate. I mean, pretty much, if you want to protect yourself, you can get a vaccine, you can get a booster shot, and then you're pretty much good to go. It's not totally the case. You can take additional precautions to protect yourself. You know, is this true, Marissa? That non-regulatory that we can't only the government is our only option for making this pandemic better?
I definitely don't believe that. You know, I think that let's look at the facts here. So, you know, right now the Biden administration doesn't even have 100% of his own White House vaccinated. So I think it's a little hypocritical to think that doing one thing only the government's way is the right way to do it.
Michael, what do you think? Do you like my sense is just from a political perspective, the White House is being serious there when they say they would rather not have instituted this mandate, because even though it polls well, the opposition to it is intense, and so even if that's a minority of people, their opposition is fierce, kind of like the gun rights issue. So, do you think they're being straightforward there when they say that they reluctantly did this because they see the climbing case counts as a bigger problem than instituting the mandate?
Absolutely. I mean, when you think about it, this is the exact type of policy that gives fodder to kind of the Fox News crowd who wants to talk about government invasion and, the government is infringing on our rights. And I think the White House realizes that, but it's a catch-22. If they don't push for these type of policies, then when case counts start going up again in the winter and there's potentially a new variant, then they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. They're going to get hit either way. And so at least pushing people to get more vaccinations, which that part of this has been successful. Since the first mandate was put in place, now 90% of workplaces have at least one shot. And so, the mandates may not be popular, but in effect, they've worked really well. And there is an exception to that policy that if you don't get a vaccination, then you have to wear a mask and you have to get, I think, either daily or weekly tested. So there are certain exceptions that can be put in place for people who don't want to get vaccinated. But at the end of the day, what this is all about is making sure that, everybody's looking out for each other, because it's not just the person who gets vaccinated that's taking care of themselves, but they're taking care of those.
But no natural. They don't include natural immunity or post-infection antibodies as good enough. I think that if they had allowed that exception, a testing exception, you can demonstrate you've already had it and you have protection. And if you can do one of those things to get out of the mandate, I think it would be probably easier for them to defend it. But they don't talk about it. They never talk about that. Health officials are so reluctant to even acknowledge that there is such a thing as post recovery from infection immunity. But
natural immunity isn't really a thing. I mean, you can get we have evidence of people getting COVID, 2-3 times after getting COVID the first time.
Well, we have evidence of people getting COVID after they've been vaccinated too. It's not. It's the exact same. It's the exact same thing.
Right. It's like it doesn't prevent, but does reduce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't have a lot of evidence of people getting COVID 3 times. By the way, I'm sure it's happened. It's not an incredibly common experience.
But the fact that people are getting it multiple times after getting COVID versus someone who's gotten the vaccination and then has asymptomatic COVID, I think is a big difference. And there's no way of knowing the difference.
Well, you're right. We don't know the difference for sure. I don't know that there's more. Do you think that's true? That there's more
I don't
secondary
think so.
infection, or second and third infections, and there are breakthrough infections proportional?
I don't think so. That's
I don't
something
think
we
so.
should check, but I don't.
That'd be interesting
I
if
don't
it's
know
true. Yeah. Marissa, what do you think about the natural immunity issue never being part of the conversation? Obviously, it's not something to shoot for. We shouldn't, because the whole point is to avoid people getting COVID. But if you have had COVID, it looks to me from looking at the data that you're pretty, at least for a period of time, it's a protection as if you'd had vaccination, or it's somewhere in the ballpark of that.
Right, and I think excluding it from the conversation is definitely what also creates distrust among the American people. Right now, just off the top of my head, Biden's approval rating is hovering at what, definitely 40, maybe 41%. So not having that inclusive type of a conversation, and in addition, having an administration that's not trusted by the American people is going to create, serious doubt. And it's going to kind of create, this battle that we're seeing. I think we have 12 states, including Utah, that are going to push back on this vaccination mandate.
Yeah. Well, good discussion. Thank you both for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Happy holidays, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving.
We'll be back with more Rising right after this.